Picture a rain-slicked night in Sao Paulo, where the city's roar finally fades into a silence so heavy it's almost haunting. Have you ever wondered why some men vanish from a woman's life as if they never existed, while others become a graceful scar, a proud ghost that haunts her memory for a lifetime? Don't be fooled. It's not about the luxury cars or the hollow flattery whispered on the sands of Copacabana. Those things are nothing more than sea foam, shimmering for a moment, then gone. In Brazil, we worship the heat of passion. But remember, the brilliance of a flame always leads to the coldness of ash. What truly turns a man into a legend in a woman's mind is stoic fortitude. It isn't a lack of feeling, it is the ultimate sovereignty of the soul. It is the power to stand unyielding when everything else is collapsing. When she hurls an emotional storm at you, just to see if you'll break, you don't shout. You don't beg. You simply stand there, as still as a mountain lake in the dead of night, reflecting her own chaos back at her with a knowing smile and a gaze that sees everything. That mystery creates a psychological aftershock deeper than any kiss ever could. She won't remember you for how much you catered to her. She will remember you for how you mastered yourself when the world demanded you crawl. Tonight, I'm stripping back the 9 core secrets of Stoic wisdom, the force that will transform you from a desperate chaser into an icon of freedom. A man she will ache to enter, yet realize she can never truly possess. Are you ready to become unforgettable? The power of walking away. Picture a blood-red sunset at your favorite corner cafe. She looks you dead in the eye and utters the coldest words a man can hear. I think we should stop right here. In that split second, the world of most men shatters. They begin a humiliating descent into begging, a desperate marathon of midnight texts, or worse, a blind, explosive rage to mask the sting of rejection. But you possess the spirit of a stoic warrior. You refuse to play that mediocre script. You take a deep breath, letting a heavy stillness anchor the room as it trembles around you. Instead of a shout, you offer her a gentle smile, and gaze filled with an almost haunting level of understanding and grace. You keep it brief. I understand. I hope you find exactly what you're looking for. Goodbye. And then you stand up. You walk away with a gravity that commands the air. You don't look back. Not once. Your footsteps are steady, as if you are marching back toward your own kingdom, a place where your worth was never determined by who stays or who leaves. Why does this trigger such a massive psychological aftershock? In a culture like Brazil, where emotions are dialed to the extreme, she was braced for an explosion. She was ready for the drama. When you respond with absolute dignity, you instantly become a captivating enigma. In the quiet of the night, she will ask herself, who is he? How could he let go of my presence so easily? Does he possess an inner treasure more valuable than this love? The moment you accept losing her with total composure, you become the man she can never truly erase. Your silence isn't an accident. It is the manifesto of a truly free soul. The art of silent forgiveness. Imagine the cold sting of a knife in your back from the person you trusted most, right in the pulsing heart of Sao Paulo or amidst the lavish lights of Rio. Most men would scream. They'd scatter venom across the city, desperate to tear their enemy down, hoping that someone else's pain might finally soothe their own. But you are a master of the quiet. You choose a different road, the road of silent forgiveness. You don't need a public trial. You don't need the crowd's pity. You simply close the book, exile their name from your inner kingdom, and walk away as if that pain never even existed. The real drama unfolds a year later. Fate orchestrates a moment where that same betrayer falls into a pit of despair, and you, by some cosmic coincidence, are the only one who can reach out a hand. Instead of gloating, instead of walking away in spite, you help them. You do it with a cold, polite grace, as if you were assisting a total stranger on the street. And then, you vanish into the night without a single word, leaving no room for a thank you or a debt to be repaid. That is the moment your mystery becomes a permanent haunting in their mind. Marcus Aurelius taught us, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. When you forgive without a grand announcement, you prove that your soul is an invincible fortress, a place where no petty act can ever leave a stain. To a woman, this stainless nobility is a magnetic force. She doesn't just see a good man. She sees a grand spirit, a kingdom she aches to enter, yet fears she might never be worthy of. That is the haunting power of a proud ghost. The luxury of absolute presence. Picture yourself in the eye of a Rio Samba storm. The drums are a rhythmic frenzy, and the neon lights are scorching every sense you have. All around you, men are clamoring for relevance, screaming for a scrap of attention. They brag about their jet-set trips, their million-dollar deals, or their latest conquests, hoping to scavenge a few seconds of interest from the beautiful women in the room. But in that chaotic vortex, you emerge as something entirely different. Sovereign stillness. You sit there, utterly unfazed by the blaring music or the blur of bodies passing by. Your gaze is calm yet bottomless, locked onto her eyes. When she begins to whisper those hidden childhood fears, things she's never trusted anyone enough to say, you don't interrupt. You don't offer cheap, unsolicited advice. And you never reach for that soulless smartphone. You give her the most expensive luxury in an era of total distraction, your absolute presence. When she finally finishes her story, the air between you thickens. You don't rush to fill the void with hollow words. Instead, you ask just one question, a surgical question that cuts straight to the bone of the pain or the desire she just bared. In that heartbeat, the world dissolves. She realizes that among 10,000 men shouting to be heard, you are the only one who truly sees her soul. This connection is more intoxicating and mysterious than any flirtation could ever be. A woman might forget an expensive gift, but she will carry to her grave the memory of the man who made her feel like the center of the universe in a world full of selfish ghosts. This isn't just listening. This is a conquest of the soul. A mission greater than love. In the shadows of a late-night office, while the city outside drowns in frivolous fun, your phone vibrates with a seductive rhythm. It's her, the woman who can make any heart skip a beat, offering something most men would treat like a divine blessing. Come to me right now. But you have chosen the path of giants. You are not a planet orbiting someone else's gravity. You are the sun, the center of a value system you have built with blood, sweat, and iron will. You look at your unfinished goals, the weathered pages of Marcus Aurelius, or that project you've poured your soul into. And then you let out a refusal that carries the weight of a mountain. I'd love to see you, but right now, I belong to my mission. I'll see you tomorrow night. That isn't hollow ego. It's the echo of a soul with an axis, a grit that refuses to be rattled by the impulses of the moment. In a land of burning passions like Brazil, women may love the fire, but they worship the immovable. When you prove she isn't the center of your universe, she suddenly realizes you are the sturdiest fortress she could ever lean on. A man who can say no to a fleeting pleasure to serve a distant ideal is a man everyone aches to conquer, yet no one can truly possess. The mystery lies here. You love her, but you worship your mission more. And that, my friend, is exactly what makes you a memory that never fades. Unwavering integrity in the dark. Picture a shimmering night in the urban sprawl of Sao Paulo. You're dressed in your sharpest suit, minutes away from a high-stakes date with the woman who occupies your every thought. But through the blur of the downpour and the rush of traffic, you see him. A stranger, helpless and desperate, stranded beside a broken-down car in the freezing rain. Most men would cruise right past, or worse, they'd call her to spin some hollow, polished lie about a traffic jam to save face. But you are a man of unwavering integrity. You stop. You roll up your sleeves, letting the cold rain ruin your pristine look and soak your skin, all to fulfill a silent vow to your own conscience. I will never turn my back on someone in need. You accept the missed minutes, the potential fallout, and the ruined suit. And you do it all when there are no cameras to watch and no crowds to applaud. When you finally stand before her, you don't weave a tale to hunt for pity or praise. You look her dead in the eye and say, with a calm that borders on the chilling, I had a matter of gravity to attend to before I arrived. I take full responsibility for the delay. Why does this haunt her? Because in a world where promises are as cheap as discarded flyers on a street corner, a man whose word carries the weight of iron is an ancient treasure. That cold, unwavering alignment between your ethics and your actions creates a primal, masculine magnetism that no designer label or social status could ever buy. She realizes that if you can stay loyal to a stranger and your own principles in the dark, you are the eternal anchor who will never betray her. That absolute trust is the invisible cord that binds her heart to your commanding mystery for a lifetime. Mastery in the eye of the storm. Imagine a night of relentless, driving rain on a desolate highway stretching between the great cities of Brazil. The rain hammers against the roof like 1,000 rhythmic mallets, and suddenly, the engine gasps, then falls silent. In that cramped, high-pressure darkness, her panic begins to flare, a barrage of frantic questions and fear visible in her eyes. Most men would choose to mirror that chaos. They would curse the weather, yell at the car, and let their own frustration ignite an already suffocating atmosphere. But you, a disciple of Stoic philosophy, you do not allow the outside world to breach your inner fortress. You take one deep, grounding breath and let stillness take the lead. While your hand calmly dials for roadside assistance, you turn to her, not with a look of worry, but with a gaze that is warm, piercing, and entirely unfazed. You let a subtle smile play on your lips and drop a line of effortless wit. Well, it seems this car knows exactly how to set the mood for the most private and drenched date of our lives, doesn't it? Why does this moment leave an eternal mark? Because in an unpredictable world, what a woman craves most isn't gold or glamour. It is segurança, safety. When you remain the calm in the center of the storm, you become a steady anchor, preventing her soul from being swept away by the tide of negative emotion. She will never forget the man who transformed a potential disaster into a memory of profound protection. That is the grit of a man who owns his fate, a masculine mystery that no words can ever fully capture. The sovereignty of solitude. Picture a quiet corner tucked away in the heart of a frantic city, where everyone else is desperately performing for the crowd or glued to their screens, trying to drown out the void of their own company. In that landscape, you emerge as an anomaly, an outlier, but one radiating a strange, quiet authority. You're sitting there alone with a glass of red wine and a tattered copy of Seneca. No fidgeting. No glancing around for approval. No pretending to be busy just to save face. You are entirely submerged in your inner world, savoring that silence like a long-lost friend. This is the sovereignty of solitude, a rare, almost ancient Stoic virtue. When she catches a glimpse of you from across the room, an intense curiosity begins to burn. She doesn't see a lonely man waiting to be rescued. She sees a self-contained fortress that is already whole. You are living proof that you don't need anyone to make your life meaningful. You only choose who is worthy enough to share in your abundance. Why is this so dangerously magnetic? Because non-neediness is the absolute peak of freedom and primal masculinity. In an era where everyone is starving for attention and terrified of their own reflection, a man who is happy in his own skin becomes a masterpiece of mystery. She will ache to step into that private world, to taste the peace you already possess. You become unforgettable because you are the only man to show her that a man who masters his own solitude is a man who can never be broken by someone else's departure. The sanctuary of peace. Picture a late night in Sao Paulo. She walks through your door, her shoulders heavy with the weight of the world, her eyes glazed over after a grueling day of navigating office politics and the hollow glamour of the city. Outside, the world is a ruthless arena, a place where she has to strap on a mask of perfection and strength just to survive. Most men would shatter that fragile silence instantly. They would bombard her with questions, offer unasked for advice, or worse, dump their own emotional baggage onto her, turning the home into a second battlefield. But you, the man who possesses stoic grit, you operate on a completely different frequency. You emerge as a sanctuary of peace, pause, in the absolute eye of the storm. You don't judge. You don't interrogate. You don't try to fix anything. You are simply there, as steady as an ancient mountain, radiating an eerily calm energy that commands the room. You hand her a glass of water, offer a wordless embrace, and give her the rarest gift of all, the permission to be silent. In that space, she finally feels safe enough to strip off her iron armor. She is allowed to be weak, to be tired, and to be herself without the fear of being judged or hurt. Why does this make you a ghost that haunts her heart forever? Because in an era where chaos has become a chronic disease, the man who provides stillness is the most expensive and elusive cure. When every road outside leads to exhaustion, her heart will instinctively navigate back to you, the only place on earth where her soul finds true rest. You don't need to whisper empty, "I love yous," because your grounded presence is a sacred promise of protection. That is the ultimate power of a Stoic, to become the final harbor where she longs to anchor her soul in the middle of a storm-tossed life. The guardian of her honor in the dark. Imagine a late night in a room thick with cigarette smoke and the hollow laughter of men intoxicated by their own conquests. As the conversation slides into crude remarks and mockery of women, maybe even your own ex, most men fold. They join the chorus of insults just to prove a fake masculinity, or simply to avoid being the odd man out. But you sit there, a sovereign ghost of integrity, as unyielding as a slab of granite. You don't laugh. You don't nod. And when the disrespect reaches its peak, you drop a sentence that carries the weight of a landslide. We are men. And a real man doesn't dismantle the dignity of others for entertainment. We're done here. This isn't a performance of false morality. It is the echo of an invincible fortress of virtue. Why does this haunt a woman to her very core? Because in a world crawling with betrayal and whispers behind closed doors, the feeling of being protected when you aren't even there to see it, that is a level of soul security that every woman starves for but rarely finds. When word of your silence reaches her, And trust me, in cities like Rio or Sao Paulo, honor always finds its way through the noise. She realizes you weren't just protecting her. You were protecting your own code. You are the only man she can truly trust. Because if you are honorable to your past and to those who aren't there to defend themselves, you will never be the man who betrays her in the dark. This is the magnetism of a warrior who needs no sword. A man whose honor is his most lethal jewelry, making every woman long to stand forever in the shadow of that protection. The sovereign truth. After all the emotional storms and the lessons in stillness, we arrive at a raw, sovereign truth. The man who is truly unforgettable is the one who never once tried to be remembered. Every desperate attempt to be special is nothing more than the soul's silent scream for validation. In a land of burning passions like Brazil, where the sun incinerates every drop of hollow vanity, only the deep shade of a resilient, self-contained spirit is where people truly ache to find rest. Listen closely, my friend. A Stoic's aura doesn't bleed from luxury labels or silver-tongued promises made under neon lights. It radiates from the silence of a fortress, a soul forged through 1,000 trials. It is the aura of a man who has died and been reborn within his own reflections, returning to the world with an unshakable mind. Never, and I mean never, barter your identity, your honor, or your sacred mission for a passing glance or a flicker of temporary warmth. When you become whole from within, you stop chasing shadows. Your very presence becomes an irresistible force of destiny. This path isn't for the faint of heart. It belongs to the proud ghosts, those who choose to master their fate rather than remain slaves to their impulses. If you have stayed with me until this very last breath, in the heart of the chaos outside, it means your soul is ready for a real revolution. Mark your first step into the kingdom of men by leaving a comment. I choose silence. Don't forget to like and subscribe so we can build a generation that bows to no one. Walk with the dignity of a king who needs no crown. To victory.